Welcome to Global Intel. Today, we uncover how China is reshaping Africa. Is China's investment a path to prosperity or modern control? From infrastructure to debt, we'll explore this complex relationship. Hit subscribe and let's dig in. China's influence in Africa is huge. Since 2009, they've been Africa's largest trading partner. Trade reached $300 billion by 2015 and continues growing. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China built major projects, like Kenya's Nairobi-Mombasa Railway and Ethiopia's Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway. In 2024, they pledged $60 billion for African development, including grants and loans. But it goes beyond infrastructure. China invests in energy, mining, and digital networks. From 2000 to 2022, they built 80 electricity facilities, 130 health centers, and 180 schools. In Zambia, Chinese firms dominate copper mining, crucial to the economy. The Bagamoyo Port project in Tanzania aims to create Africa's largest port. These projects help address Africa's $68,108 billion annual infrastructure gap, largely ignored by Western powers. At Global Intel, we see the appeal. China offers no-strings-attached loans. African leaders often praise this partnership. But critics call it debt-trap diplomacy, with $153 billion in loans by 2020. Is this development or domination? Let's dive deeper. How does China gain influence without military force? First, through loans. The China-Africa Research Initiative noted $143 billion in loans by 2017. 7 countries hold most of the debt, with Angola's share at 35% of its 2017 GDP. When nations struggle to repay, China sometimes secures assets. In 2017, Sri Lanka lost control of its Hambantota port after defaulting on loans. Second, resource extraction plays a key role. China often trades high-value goods for Africa's raw materials, limiting local industry growth. In Ghana, illegal mining has harmed the environment, with negative impacts elsewhere too. Third, labor and market dynamics matter. Chinese firms frequently bring their own workers, stunting local job creation. In 2015, Chinese contracts in Africa totaled $50 billion. Critics argue these projects rarely benefit local companies, while supporters claim they create essential infrastructure. The term, colonization, is complex. Historically, it meant territorial control and oppression. China doesn't engage this way. No armies, no flags. Critics label it neo-colonialism, viewing economic dominance and imbalances as control. Zambia's debt crisis shows potential dependency risks. In Djibouti, public debt is 80% of GDP, largely owed to China. However, others argue China's unity with African nations counters traditional colonization. By offering debt relief and infrastructure investments, African leaders choose partnerships willingly. In 2024, China canceled debts for 15 nations and provided zero-tariff access for 33 countries. At Global Intel, we see both perspectives. China's projects bring tangible benefits, but a risk of dependency looms. The real question is, are African nations gaining sustainable growth or trading reliance? The costs of these relationships are clear. Environmental damage is significant. In Ghana, illegal gold mining ruins farmland and water. In Zambia, pollution from copper mines sparks labor disputes. Debt distress is rising too, with countries like Zambia at high risk. Chinese competition pushes local businesses down, causing growing frustrations among traders. Social media reflects these mixed feelings. from praising infrastructure improvements to fearing over-reliance on exports. Defenders of China argue the West's narrative overstates concerns. South Korea built ports without being labeled colonial. Chinese influence has complexities, but African leaders must also take responsibility for their decisions. What's next for China and Africa? The 2024 China-Africa Cooperation Forum focused on shared modernization. African nations can harness the African Continental Free Trade Area for better deals. Leaders must create a China policy for negotiations that ensure local jobs and sustainability. The West should invest in education and microfinance to support Africa. African leaders must learn from history. The future depends on smart policies that prioritize African growth over foreign interests. That's it for today's Global Intel. If you found this deep dive insightful, click like, share, and subscribe for more. Comment below. Is China's influence colonialism or an opportunity? Follow Global Intel for more, and we'll see you next time.